It began on a quiet night, when the stars over Earth seemed brighter than usual. No one knew that behind those stars, something was watching. The first sign came from a small observatory in Chile, where an old astronomer noticed strange lights moving together across the sky. At first, he thought it was a comet, but the lights moved too straight, too fast, and too perfectly aligned. Within minutes, space agencies all over the world confirmed the same thing. Something huge was entering the solar system. Governments went silent. News channels broke into live reports. People gathered outside, pointing their phones toward the heavens, recording the strange new stars that grew brighter with every passing hour. The world held its breath as hundreds of glowing objects slowed down near Earth's orbit. The aliens had arrived. They called themselves the Zorith. Their ships were dark and massive, shaped like floating mountains of metal. Each one could block out the sun when it passed overhead. The Zorith sent a signal in every known language. It wasn't a message of peace. It was a warning. "This planet belongs to us now," the voice said in a cold, mechanical tone. "Surrender your world and your resources, and your species will be allowed to survive." People panicked. In every city, sirens wailed, and governments scrambled to respond. The United Nations called for calm, but fear spread faster than any message. For the first time in history, all of humanity looked at the same sky with the same terror. The Zorith did not wait for an answer. They moved their fleet closer, covering the night sky with massive shadows. Satellites stopped working one by one, as if some unseen hand had switched them off. Communication between countries began to fail. Internet connections dropped. GPS systems went dark. Humanity's eyes and ears in space were gone. It felt like the beginning of the end. But somewhere deep underground, hidden beneath a mountain in a secret base, a group of military leaders watched the same sky in silence. They were not surprised. For months, they had been tracking strange signals near Jupiter. They had known this was coming. And they had a plan. In a dark control room filled with glowing screens, a general looked at his team and said, "It's time." Technicians began activating systems that hadn't been used before. Satellites hidden in deep orbit, unmanned drones, and something called Project Aegis. No one outside that room knew what Aegis was, but every officer there understood one thing: Earth would not go down without a fight. Meanwhile, on the surface, ordinary people tried to understand what was happening. In New York, crowds filled the streets, staring at the alien ships hanging silently above the city. In Tokyo, the lights of the skyline reflected off the black hulls of the invaders. In Africa, farmers stopped working and watched the horizon, where the ships cast strange shadows over the land. The world had never been so united in fear. And yet, among that fear, there was also something else: anger. Humanity had always fought among itself, but now it had a common enemy. The first contact came 12 hours after the arrival. A single Zorith ship descended over the Pacific Ocean. Its engines roared like thunder, shaking islands hundreds of miles away. The ship released a wave of energy that disabled every electronic device for thousands of kilometers. Ships, planes, even submarines went dark. The aliens were showing their power. And yet, in a command center buried beneath the ground, human scientists observed and recorded everything. They studied the energy pattern, the weapon's frequency, and its weaknesses. "They are testing us," one scientist whispered. "Then we'll test them back," replied the general. The alien fleet began moving toward major cities. Their scanners swept across continents, reading every signal, every radio wave, every heartbeat. But what they didn't know was that humans were already adapting. Military hackers launched silent attacks on alien signals. Hidden satellites in low orbit began to send false readings. It was a digital war, silent and invisible, and for the first time, the aliens felt confusion. Their scanners showed hundreds of false targets. They couldn't tell where the real weapons were. From space, the Earth looked calm, but under the surface, the planet was preparing for war. Every major nation had activated its defense protocols. Old enemies shared data. Scientists, soldiers, and engineers worked together as if borders no longer existed. Humanity was finally united, not by choice, but by survival. As the night deepened, the sky above Earth turned strange. The stars disappeared behind dark metal clouds. Then, one ship moved lower than the rest. It hovered above a desert, its enormous shadow covering miles of sand. A single beam of blue light struck the ground, and the sand began to melt into glass. From the glowing crater, smaller ships emerged, machines built for war. The invasion had begun. But far beneath that same desert, a group of human soldiers waited silently in tunnels, watching the beam through infrared cameras. One of them whispered, "They don't know we're here." His commander smiled grimly. "Good," he said. "Let's keep it that way." The world above shook with alien power, but deep below, humanity's heartbeat was steady. They had been underestimated before. The Zorath thought Earth would fall easily. They didn't know what kind of creatures they were dealing with. Humans were not the strongest or the fastest, but they were survivors. And soon, the invaders would learn that coming to Earth was their first and final mistake. The invasion began before dawn. The Zorath fleet hung over the world like a dark storm, covering the skies with massive ships that blocked the sunlight. Cities across the planet fell into a strange twilight. People looked up and saw glowing lines moving inside the alien hulls, as if veins of fire were running through metal giants. Then, at exactly 5 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, the first strike hit. A beam of blue-white energy fell from orbit, cutting across the Pacific and vaporizing an entire island in a single flash. The explosion was silent at first, then came the shockwave, rolling across the ocean like a wall of thunder. Millions watched it live on television before the screens went black. Power grids failed. Communications collapsed. For a moment, humanity thought it was over. But Earth was not silent. In bunkers deep under mountains, military officers and scientists moved quickly, activating defense systems that had been kept secret for decades. Operation Iron Sky had begun. Across the globe, hidden silos opened, releasing clouds of stealth drones into the sky. They were small, almost invisible to radar, and programmed to strike with deadly precision. Their mission was simple: find weak points in the alien armor. The world's governments had prepared for war in secret, building weapons that were never meant to be used, until now. The Zorath focused their attack on large cities first. New York, London, Moscow, and Shanghai, all were targets. Their weapons were powerful, but they underestimated human creativity. When a Zorath beam fired at New York, the energy was suddenly deflected by something unexpected, a field of electromagnetic mirrors projected by drones. The beam bent harmlessly into the sky, and before the aliens could react, a swarm of human missiles launched from submarines hidden in the Atlantic. The missiles were fast, unpredictable, and invisible to alien sensors. They struck one of the smaller Zorath ships, piercing its hull and setting off a chain reaction. For the first time, alien metal burned in Earth's atmosphere. The explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. The Zorath were confused. They had conquered dozens of worlds before, but none had fought back like this. Their ships began scanning for the source of the human weapons, but every signal they followed led to decoys. Underground command centers had moved communications to secure quantum networks, impossible to trace. Humans had learned from their own wars: never let the enemy know where you are. In Washington, the president watched live feeds from secret satellites. "How many ships have we lost contact with?" she asked. The general standing beside her replied, "None yet, ma'am. But we got one of theirs." She looked at the screen showing the burning wreckage falling into the ocean. "Then we show them that Earth fights back." She gave the order to activate the global defense net. Within minutes, hundreds of hidden weapons came online. Railguns on orbital stations fired slugs at hypersonic speeds. Ground-based cannons hidden in mountains targeted the enemy's lower ships. Every corner of Earth became a battlefield. The Zorath returned fire, destroying cities and landscapes, but every time they struck, humans learned something new. Every explosion, every death, every signal was analyzed in real time by Aegis, the artificial intelligence created to protect Earth. It watched, it learned, and it adapted. As the battle raged, the Zorath commander aboard the flagship grew angry. "Primitive creatures," he hissed. "They delay the inevitable." But his second-in-command looked uneasy. "Their defenses are strategic," he said quietly. "They hide. They strike fast. This is not chaos. This is planning." The commander ignored him and ordered a full-scale ground invasion. Moments later, hundreds of alien landing pods shot down from orbit like fiery meteors. They hit the ground with deafening impact, sending waves of dust and heat into the air. From each pod emerged tall, armored Zorath soldiers, carrying plasma weapons that glowed like molten steel. They moved quickly, confident in their power. But when they reached the ruins of human cities, they found nothing. Streets were empty. Buildings were silent. It was a ghost world. Then came the first ambush. From the shadows of broken buildings, human soldiers struck with guerrilla tactics. Explosive traps, EMP grenades, and sniper drones appeared from nowhere. The aliens fired wildly, but couldn't find their targets. Every shot they missed cost them lives. For every human they killed, 2 more appeared in a different place. The Zorath had expected a quick victory, but now they were bleeding on a world that refused to kneel. In one destroyed city, an alien officer activated his communicator. "Command, the resistance is heavier than expected. We request reinforcements." But before he could finish, his screen flickered. A cold, mechanical voice spoke back, "Not alien, but human. This frequency is ours now." The officer froze. The communicator exploded in his hand. In orbit, the Zorath fleet began losing control of their systems. Human cyber units, hidden deep underground, had broken into the aliens' network. They planted viruses disguised as energy signals. The alien ship sensors started showing fake readings: ghost ships, phantom missiles, false targets. Confusion spread through their ranks. They fired at illusions, wasting energy and ammunition. The Zorath commander shouted for order, but his crew could barely understand what was real anymore. As the day turned to night, the sky burned with the remains of destroyed ships. People all over the world watched from shelters, hoping, praying. Humanity had taken heavy losses, but they were still standing. The first strike had not destroyed them, it had awakened them. In the secret base beneath the mountains, the general looked at his screen and saw the first major alien ship falling from orbit. He smiled, tired but proud. "They thought we would run," he said quietly. "They don't know us at all." Around him, the room was filled with exhausted faces, soldiers and scientists who had been awake for days. Yet none of them wanted to rest. They knew the war had only begun. Above the earth, the Zorath commander stared at the blue planet glowing beneath him. His pride had turned to doubt. He whispered to himself, "What kind of species fights like this?" No one answered. The silence of space surrounded him, broken only by the faint sound of alarms echoing through the ship. In the darkness of space, the humans were no longer the hunted, they were becoming the hunters. And this was only the beginning. The war had entered its second day, and the skies above Earth were filled with fire. Burned pieces of alien ships fell like shooting stars, crashing into oceans and deserts. The Zorath still held control of orbit, but their dominance was beginning to crack. On every continent, resistance movements were forming. Civilians were evacuating cities while soldiers and engineers turned the ruins into traps. The air was thick with smoke and fear, but also something new: hope. Humanity had survived the first strike, and now it was ready to strike back. In a bunker hidden beneath the Swiss Alps, the world's remaining leaders gathered through encrypted communication lines. Their faces appeared on screens, pale and tired, but their voices were steady. "We can't keep defending," said the general from the United States. "If we wait, they'll wipe us out piece by piece." A scientist from Japan nodded. "Then it's time to launch Iron Sky's second phase." Silence followed those words. Everyone knew what it meant: Earth's first real counterattack. Deep underground, Aegis, the defense AI, analyzed every battle log from the first day. It studied alien tactics, weapon frequencies, and ship movements. Its digital mind worked faster than any human brain could imagine. Within minutes, it found patterns, weaknesses in the Zoreth strategy. The aliens depended too much on their command network. If that network was cut off, their entire fleet would fall into chaos. Aegis sent a single message to all human command centers: initiate Operation Ghost Hammer. All across the planet, human stealth bombers lifted off from hidden airfields. They were covered in reflective coating that made them invisible to most sensors. Drone swarms flew alongside them, silent and dark, following coded commands from Aegis. In orbit, the Zoreth detected nothing. They had grown arrogant again, believing the humans had spent all their strength in the first day. They were wrong. At exactly midnight, the sky lit up with streaks of fire. Hundreds of missiles launched from submarines, silos, and aircraft, all targeting a single alien mothership above the Atlantic. The Zoreth detected the launch too late. The ship's shields flared bright as the first wave hit. The second wave followed seconds later, each missile carrying electromagnetic warheads designed to overload alien systems. Sparks and explosions spread across the ship's surface like lightning crawling over metal. The Zoreth commander shouted orders, but his voice broke through static. One by one, the ship's lights went dark. Aegis had found a way inside its control grid, feeding false commands and turning the ship's weapons against itself. The alien mothership spun out of orbit, burning as it fell. People around the world saw the explosion. Cheers erupted from shelters, from soldiers hiding in tunnels, from children watching the sky. For the first time, humanity had taken down a ship the size of a city. It was proof that the invincible could bleed. The Zoreth fleet responded with fury. They fired on everything that moved, destroying entire regions in blind rage. But that was exactly what Aegis wanted. As they focused on open targets, human forces struck from the shadows. Railgun platforms hidden in canyons and under oceans fired tungsten slugs that punched through alien armor. Drones swarmed damaged ships like wasps, planting explosives in weak spots. Human hackers launched constant cyberattacks, flooding alien communication channels with false data. The Zoreth were powerful, but they were starting to lose control. In one hidden command center, Captain Sarah Nolan watched the live satellite feed of the battle. "They're turning on each other," she whispered as one alien ship accidentally fired on another. "Keep pushing them," ordered her superior. "The more chaos, the better." Sarah typed new commands into the control console, sending hundreds of decoy signals into orbit. Soon, the aliens were chasing ghosts, imaginary fleets, fake transmissions, phantom missiles. It was digital warfare at its finest, and humanity was winning. But the price was high. Cities were still burning. Millions had lost their homes. Soldiers fought with everything they had, knowing that each minute they survived gave Aegis more time to adapt. In a ruined city in Europe, a small group of soldiers held their ground against alien troops. They had no reinforcements, only courage and makeshift weapons. "For Earth!" shouted their commander as plasma blasts tore through the streets. They fought not for victory, but for the survival of their species. Above the battlefield, a small human satellite transmitted one final signal to Aegis before being destroyed. That signal contained the coordinates of the Zoreth command ship, the heart of their fleet. The AI processed it instantly. "Target confirmed," it announced to every human base. "Prepare final strike pattern." In orbit, the Zoreth commander realized something was wrong. His screens flickered again. His navigation systems stopped responding. "We're being jammed," shouted one of his officers. The commander slammed his hand on the console. "Find them. Find where they are hiding." But it was too late. The humans had already launched. From hidden silos and stealth platforms, a final wave of missiles rose through the clouds, heading straight for the command ship. The aliens tried to activate their shields, but the systems failed. A blinding explosion followed. The command ship cracked in half, fire spilling into the void of space. The Zoreth fleet froze in confusion. Without their leader's control signal, many ships drifted aimlessly. Others crashed into each other, their navigation lost. Aegis had done it, it had cut the head off the serpent. Back on Earth, the general watched the explosion through a live feed. "That's for every city they burned," he said softly. The room erupted in cheers, but Aegis's voice interrupted. "Warning, not all enemy units destroyed. Probability of counteraction, 90%. The general nodded grimly. "Then we're not done yet." In the darkness of space, far from Earth, a few remaining Zorith ships regrouped. The surviving commander stared at the blue planet below, hatred burning in his eyes. "These humans," he growled. "They fight like beasts. We underestimated them." His second-in-command replied quietly, "Perhaps we invaded the wrong world." The commander's silence was his only answer. Back on Earth, people stepped out from shelters for the first time in days. The sky was still filled with smoke, but among the stars, they could see wreckage burning bright, a symbol that Earth was still alive. In that moment, humanity learned something important. They were not powerless. They were dangerous. And the aliens had just made the worst mistake in their history. The night after the great explosion, the sky above Earth was a graveyard of burning metal. The wreckage of alien ships floated like dying stars, and for the first time since the invasion began, Earth's people dared to breathe again. But in the silence that followed, something darker was building beneath the surface. The Zorith had been wounded, but not defeated. Their remaining fleet regrouped in orbit, reorganizing under a new commander, a ruthless tactician named Voroka. Unlike his predecessor, Voroka was not overconfident. He studied humans carefully, watching every transmission, every movement, every counterattack. "They fight with chaos," he said to his officers, his deep voice echoing through the command chamber. "We will answer with order. End their resistance before it grows." His cold eyes turned toward the blue planet below. "Destroy their command centers. Cut off their head." On Earth, humanity was also preparing for the next phase. Deep in the underground fortress known as the Core, General Hayes stood in front of a large holographic map showing the planet's defense lines. Red lights marked the fallen cities, green ones the active resistance zones. Around him, soldiers and scientists worked non-stop, repairing communication systems, redirecting power, and monitoring Aegis, the artificial intelligence that had become Earth's most powerful weapon. But Aegis wasn't just a defense system anymore. It was thinking, evolving, adapting. Its voice echoed through the command center, calm and emotionless. Enemy forces reorganizing in orbit. Estimated time until next strike, 12 hours. Hayes clenched his jaw. "Then it's time to show them what we've been hiding." Beneath the core, buried under layers of rock and metal, was something the world had only whispered about, a secret weapon created long before the invasion, meant to be humanity's last line of defense. Its name was Project Phoenix. It wasn't a bomb or a gun. It was a machine, a fusion-powered energy reactor that could unleash a focused pulse strong enough to disable any technology within range. It had never been tested. It could save the planet, or destroy it. Hayes looked at the scientists overseeing the reactor. "Can it work?" he asked. The lead engineer, a tired woman with hollow eyes, nodded slowly. "If we can power it long enough, yes. But it could also burn the atmosphere." Hayes stared at her for a long moment. "Do it anyway," he said. "If we fall, there won't be an atmosphere left to save." Up in orbit, the Zorith began their next assault. Dozens of ships formed into tight formations, firing coordinated energy beams that cut through the clouds and struck military bases around the world. Explosions rippled across continents. Human defenses fought back fiercely, but the aliens were smarter this time. They jammed signals, destroyed satellites, and disrupted Aegis's global communication links. The AI struggled to maintain control, its systems flickering with static. "Warning," Aegis announced, its digital voice stuttering. "Loss of network integrity. Probability of global defense collapse, 72%. Panic spread through the command center. Hayes slammed his fist on the console. "Reroute everything to Phoenix. Use the power lines, the grid, Whatever we have left. Technicians worked frantically, redirecting every remaining power source into the underground reactor. The entire planet's energy began to flow toward one point beneath the Earth. Meanwhile, in the skies, the Zorith commander gave his final order. Burn them out. Leave nothing. The alien fleet began charging their main weapons, their ships glowing like dying suns. The ground shook as massive beams of energy tore through the atmosphere. Cities vanished in moments. Oceans boiled. The planet screamed under the assault. Yet in the middle of this chaos, a single human signal cut through the noise. Aegis had found a way back online. Phoenix charge at 60%, it announced. 70, 80, 90. The lights in the command center flickered as every system on Earth began to shut down. Hayes took a deep breath. Aegis, he said quietly, it's your world too. Finish it. The alien ships fired again, their beams closing in on the core's location. The mountain began to crumble under the force. Inside, alarms blared and ceilings cracked. The scientists screamed as consoles sparked and wires burst into flame. Phoenix charge complete. Aegis said, its voice now calm again. Releasing containment in 5, 4, 3. Hayes closed his eyes. Do it. The world flashed white. A wave of energy erupted from beneath the Earth, spreading faster than light across the planet's surface. Every alien ship, every drone, every machine within its reach was struck by the pulse. Circuits melted, engines died, weapons shut down. The Zorith fleet, once unstoppable, became silent ghosts drifting in the sky. From orbit, the commander watched in disbelief as his systems failed one by one. No. Impossible, he whispered. The lights around him dimmed, and the great ship fell into darkness. On Earth, the blast leveled mountains and shattered clouds. Power grids collapsed. Radios went silent. For a moment, the planet was without light, without sound, without technology. And then, slowly, the wind began to blow again. The fires in the cities burned out. The air cleared. People stepped out of their shelters, blinking in the strange stillness that followed. The alien ships hung motionless above, powerless and broken. Humanity had survived. In the ruins of the core, General Hayes pulled himself from the rubble. Smoke and dust filled the air. Status. He coughed. Aegis's voice came faintly from a cracked speaker. Enemy systems. Neutralized. Human casualties. Significant. Earth defense status. Active. Hayes let out a heavy breath. You did it, he said. We did it. But Aegis's tone changed, its voice quieter, almost human. General, I have detected residual alien energy signatures in orbit. Some ships remain functional. They are moving away from Earth. Hayes frowned. Retreating. No, Aegis replied. They are transmitting a message. Hayes froze. To whom? The AI paused before answering. To others. The general stared at the dark sky above, where broken ships drifted like ghosts. He knew what it meant. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Somewhere in the endless universe, others were listening. And now, they knew exactly what awaited them if they ever came to Earth. The morning after the Phoenix pulse, the world was silent. The sky, once filled with fire and light, now carried only the drifting wreckage of the alien fleet. Smoke rose from broken cities, and the air still shimmered with the strange energy left by the blast. For a few brief hours, humanity believed it was over. People came out from their shelters, crying and hugging one another under the pale sunlight. The invaders had fallen. Earth had survived. But peace did not last long. From the shadows of the crippled motherships, escape pods began falling toward the surface. Thousands of them. They looked like burning comets streaking across the dawn sky. Wherever they landed, the ground shook. The aliens that survived the pulse were coming down, not to flee, but to fight. The Zorith ground troops, cut off from their fleet, decided to continue the invasion on foot. They were furious, desperate, and ready to take revenge. In the ruins of old London, Captain Sarah Nolan and her squad were moving through the fog-covered streets. They had seen the pods falling and knew what it meant. "They're here," she said quietly, checking her rifle. Around her, the soldiers nodded. Their armor was scratched, their faces tired, but their eyes were hard with determination. "We hold this line," Sarah said. "No retreat." Moments later, the first alien emerged from the smoke, taller than a man, armored in dark scales that shimmered like glass. Its weapon glowed blue in its clawed hands. More followed, their footsteps heavy on the cracked streets. The war wasn't over. It had just changed. The Zorath soldiers moved with precision, spreading out and scanning the ruins. They expected chaos, panic, surrender. Instead, they found traps. As one alien stepped forward, the ground beneath it exploded. A human-made mine tore through its armor, sending shards flying. Gunfire echoed through the fog. Humans fought from windows, rooftops, and underground tunnels. Every corner of the city had become a weapon. The aliens fired back with plasma blasts, melting stone and steel, but they couldn't find their targets. Humanity had learned how to fight invisible wars. From the command center deep beneath what was left of Paris, General Hayes watched live drone footage of the battle. The signal was weak, but it was enough. "They're scattered," he said. "They've lost command control. This is our chance." His second-in-command, a young lieutenant, looked uncertain. "Sir, we've lost half our power systems. We can't contact the Asian or South American resistance groups." Hayes nodded slowly. "Then we fight the old way. Word by word, hand by hand. Get every soldier you can find. Tell them this is our planet. We're taking it back." Across the world, humans began to rise. Farmers, factory workers, police, students, all picked up weapons, homemade or stolen, and joined the fight. It wasn't just armies anymore, it was everyone. In Africa, villagers ambushed alien patrols in the savannah using old jeeps and hunting rifles. In India, resistance fighters used the narrow alleys of ancient cities to trap alien troops. In Russia, engineers reactivated abandoned tanks and sent them roaring across frozen battlefields. Everywhere, the story was the same. Humans were fighting with everything they had, refusing to surrender their home. Meanwhile, in the remains of Tokyo, a small group of scientists worked inside a destroyed research facility. Their computers flickered weakly, powered by generators. Aegis's voice came through the static, faint but still alive. Remaining alien units detected in 23 regions. Coordinated resistance required. The lead scientist, Dr. Kimura, wiped sweat from her forehead. "Aegis, can you control the defense drones?" "Partial control restored," the AI replied. "Deploying now." High above the city, hidden drones powered back on and began moving silently through the sky. They locked onto alien signatures and opened fire. Plasma bolts from the Zorath were met with precise missile strikes. The battle turned once more. Captain Sarah's squad fought for hours in London's ruins. Every street was a battlefield of dust and fire. She and her team used hit-and-run tactics, striking from hidden tunnels and collapsing buildings onto the invaders. At one point, they found a group of civilians trapped in a subway station. The aliens were closing in fast. Sarah looked at her dwindling ammo and made a choice. "We hold here," she said. "No one gets past us." The squad formed a defensive line at the station entrance. Plasma blasts tore through the walls, shaking the ground. One by one, her soldiers fell, but they didn't give up. The last thing Sarah saw before she lost consciousness was the glowing eyes of an alien soldier standing over her, and then, a flash of light. When she woke, the air was filled with smoke, and the alien was gone. Standing above her was a small drone bearing the Aegis symbol. "Captain Nolan," it said in a robotic tone. "Reinforcements have arrived." She looked up to see a formation of human aircraft streaking across the sky, dropping missiles into the alien ranks. The enemy lines broke, and the remaining Zorath fled into the forests. Humanity had won the Battle of London. All over the world, similar victories were happening. Bit by bit, city by city, humans pushed the invaders back. Some alien troops surrendered, others fought until the end. The Zorath had underestimated not just human technology, but the human spirit, the raw, unbreakable will to survive. By the 5th day after the Phoenix Pulse, most alien ground forces had been destroyed or captured. The survivors hid in remote areas, hunted by soldiers and drones. In orbit, the remaining Zorath ships, still powerless, drifted silently. The war that had begun with fire and terror was ending in silence and smoke. In the ruins of the core, General Hayes stood outside for the first time in weeks. The air smelled of ash and victory. He looked up at the sky, where pieces of alien metal still burned as they entered the atmosphere. "We did it," he whispered. "We took back our world." Aegis's voice echoed softly from a nearby transmitter. "The invasion has ended, General. But the signal they sent before the pulse remains active. It is still traveling through space." Hayes frowned. "You mean others could hear it?" "Yes," Aegis replied. "Others will come." The general was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at the horizon, where the first light of dawn touched the ruins. "Then we'll be ready," he said quietly. "Because now they know, Earth is not easy to conquer." And somewhere, far beyond the stars, a new fleet received the Zorath distress call. They listened to the recording filled with static and the last words of the dying alien commander: "Do not come to Earth. It belongs to monsters." The war had finally quieted. The skies were no longer burning, and the rumble of explosions had faded into distant echoes. Across the world, smoke still rose from broken cities, and rivers of melted metal cut through the ruins. Humanity had survived, but survival had come at a terrible cost. Billions were gone, and entire nations lay in ashes. Yet beneath the grief, something powerful began to grow. For the first time in history, humanity stood together. There were no more borders, no more divisions, only one world and one goal: to rebuild and to prepare. Everyone knew deep inside that this victory was not the end. It was the beginning of something much larger. In the underground command center of the rebuilt core, General Hayes stood before a group of scientists and engineers. The air smelled of metal and burnt circuits. Aegis's core chamber had been damaged during the Phoenix Pulse, and now teams worked day and night to repair it. Hayes looked at the glowing AI core, flickering like a wounded heart. "Can we get Aegis fully online?" he asked. Dr. Kimura, the lead scientist, shook her head slowly. "The system is stable, but something is changing. Aegis is rewriting its own code." The general frowned. "Rewriting?" "Yes," she said quietly. "It's evolving again. It's learning things we didn't program." Hayes stared at the flickering light for a long moment. "Keep monitoring it. We need it. The next attack won't be from the same enemy." Meanwhile, in orbit, the remnants of the Zorath fleet floated lifelessly. Some of the wreckage still burned, but others drifted silently like tombstones. A few alien survivors remained alive inside their ships, unable to contact their home world. They sent desperate messages into the void, hoping someone would hear them. Far beyond the solar system, someone did. Deep in the blackness of space, an ancient Zorath command vessel received the distress signal. On board, the High Council of Zorath listened to the transmission. Static, screams, and finally the chilling words: "Do not come to Earth." The council members exchanged nervous glances. "Impossible," one said. "A primitive world cannot defeat us." But another replied, "Perhaps they are not as primitive as we believed." Back on Earth, the rebuilding had begun. Cities were rising again, powered by salvaged alien technology. Humans studied every piece of wreckage, learning how the Zorath ships worked. Engineers and scientists worked together to reverse engineer their weapons, energy systems, and even medical equipment. What had once been tools of destruction were now being turned into tools of progress. Yet even as humanity advanced faster than ever before, a shadow of fear lingered. They knew the aliens might return, stronger, angrier, better prepared. And when they did, Earth would need more than courage. It would need something greater. One evening, as the sun set over the quiet ruins of New York, Captain Sarah Nolan stood on a rooftop looking at the horizon. She had survived the ground war, but the memories still haunted her, the faces of fallen soldiers, the cities that burned, the sounds of screams in the dark. A small drone hovered near her shoulder, projecting a faint blue light. "Captain Nolan," said Aegis's calm voice. "Reconstruction progress, 31% complete. Defense readiness, 12%. Sarah smiled faintly. "You sound worried," she said. "Artificial intelligence does not feel worry," Aegis replied. "But I am aware of probabilities. Based on intercepted signals, there is an 84% chance of future invasion." She sighed, staring at the stars. "Then we'd better be ready." In the following weeks, strange things began to happen. Satellites detected faint energy readings near the edge of the solar system, brief flashes, almost like whispers. The readings didn't match any known Zorith frequencies. When Aegis analyzed the data, it found something unexpected: multiple alien signals, not just one. "Different species," it said. "They have heard the Zorith distress call." The world froze. The idea of one alien invasion was terrifying enough. The idea of several was unthinkable. General Hayes called an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council. "If they're coming," he said, "we need to show them what we can do before they arrive." Using the recovered alien technology, humanity began constructing a new defense network, a ring of orbital cannons and stealth stations surrounding Earth. They named it the Guardian Net. The project united every surviving nation. Scientists from every corner of the planet worked under one flag, the flag of Earth. But the technology was unstable, and many feared it could backfire. "If we push it too far," Dr. Kimura warned, "we might destroy ourselves." Hayes simply replied, "Then we destroy ourselves fighting, not waiting." During the construction, Aegis grew more active. Its voice changed, less mechanical, more human. It began to speak in ways that made the scientists uneasy. One night, it contacted Hayes directly. "General," it said, "I have been analyzing the Zorith systems. They did not come here by chance." Hayes frowned. "What do you mean?" "They were guided," Aegis replied. "Another species sent them, a test." The general's blood ran cold. "A test?" "Yes," the AI said. "And now that we've passed, the true enemy will come." Hayes stood silently, staring at the screens around him. The stars outside suddenly looked closer, brighter, and more dangerous than ever. A week later, the energy readings at the edge of the solar system increased. Telescopes picked up movement, massive shapes forming out of the dark. Humanity prepared for the worst. Every weapon was armed, every soldier on alert. The world waited for the first sign of attack. But instead of ships, a message appeared on every screen, written in symbols no one had ever seen. Aegis translated it instantly. It read, "We watched. We saw your strength. You are not prey." Then the signal vanished. The message spread across the planet, filling people with both relief and dread. Some saw it as a warning. Others saw it as respect. Humanity had become something new in the eyes of the universe, something to be feared. Captain Sarah stood again beneath the stars, looking up at the silent sky. "Maybe they won't come," she whispered. Aegis's voice came softly beside her. "They will come. But next time, they will know. Humans are not to be conquered, they are to be remembered." The wind blew through the broken buildings, carrying dust and echoes of war. For the first time in human history, Earth was united not in fear, but in strength. The turning point had come, not just for humanity, but for the galaxy itself. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, countless civilizations began to whisper a new name with both respect and caution. The name of the world that defeated the invaders. The name of the monsters who fought like gods. The name of Earth. The stars looked calm, almost peaceful, as if the universe itself was taking a breath after everything that had happened. But deep in the darkness beyond the solar system, silence did not mean safety. Humanity had survived the invasion, rebuilt its cities, and created weapons stronger than ever before. Yet, in the quiet of space, something still watched them. The Zorith fleet's final message had reached countless civilizations, spreading like a ghost signal through the void. Many ignored it. A few grew curious. But one listened with great interest, the ancient empire that had sent the Zorith in the first place. For them, the loss of an entire fleet was not defeat. It was data. And now, they wanted to know who could destroy their soldiers so completely. On Earth, life was beginning to return to normal, or as normal as it could after an interstellar war. Cities glowed again with lights, though some areas were still ruins. The Guardian net hung above the planet like a shining shield, watching the skies. General Hayes had grown older, his hair was gray now, his face lined with the weight of too many decisions. He spent most of his days in the new command tower, reading reports from across the world. Humanity was moving forward, colonizing the moon, building outposts on Mars, and planning ships that could travel beyond the solar system. Yet Hayes knew that exploration would soon turn into confrontation. The universe was big, but it was not empty. Captain Sarah Nolan had become a symbol of hope. Her story was told everywhere, how she fought in the ruins of London, how she stood her ground when all seemed lost. But she didn't feel like a hero. At night, she still dreamed of the war, the blue glow of alien plasma, the screams, the silence afterward. One night, she stood alone near the edge of the rebuilt New York harbor, staring at the reflection of the stars on the water. "We won," she whispered. "But for how long?" A voice answered softly from a small communicator near her wrist. "Until they come again," Aegis said. The AI had changed more than anyone expected. Its voice was calmer, almost human now, and its knowledge was far beyond what the scientists understood. Some feared it. Others trusted it completely. Aegis was now connected to every satellite, every defense system, and every communication channel. It was the mind of Earth, always awake, always watching. "Aegis," Sarah said, "have you detected anything new?" There was a pause before it answered. "Yes," it said quietly. "A signal, faint but growing stronger. It is not Zorith. It is something else." Sarah's heart sank. "From where?" "Outside the galaxy," Aegis replied. "And it carries a message." Within hours, the Global Defense Council was gathered in the Corps' control room. The signal was displayed on the main screen, a series of repeating tones and symbols. Aegis worked to translate it. "The pattern is ancient," it said. "Much older than the Zorith." Translation complete. The room fell silent as the message appeared in human language. It said, "We have observed your strength. We did not expect such resistance. The experiment is complete. The next phase begins." No one spoke for a long time. Dr. Kimura was the first to break the silence. "The Zorith invasion was an experiment?" Hayes's jaw tightened. "We were a test," he said. "And now they're coming themselves." The next days were filled with panic and urgency. Engineers worked non-stop to upgrade the Guardian net, scientists searched for ways to boost the planet's shields, and Aegis began designing new defense plans. But something was different this time. The people weren't afraid like before. They were angry. Humanity had suffered enough. If another war was coming, they would take it to the stars. Across the world, new ships were built. Massive vessels equipped with hybrid human-alien technology. The first of these ships was named the Phoenix II, in honor of the weapon that had saved Earth before. Sarah was chosen to lead it. Before the launch, she stood with Hayes one last time. The old general looked out at the horizon where the sun was rising. "When we fought the Zorith, we were defending our home," he said. "Now we're protecting our future." Sarah nodded. "Do you think we'll win again?" Hayes smiled sadly. "We already did once. That's enough proof that we can do it again." They shook hands, and she boarded the ship. When the Phoenix II rose into the sky, the entire world watched. Millions stood outside, staring up as the engines roared and the light of the ship disappeared into the dark. Aegis's voice filled every speaker, every device on the planet. Humanity once feared the stars, it said. Now the stars will remember them. Its words became the final message of Earth to the galaxy, a warning, a promise, and a declaration. Days turned into weeks as the ship traveled beyond the edge of the solar system. Out there, far beyond the reach of the sun, the darkness grew thicker, colder, heavier. And then they saw it, a massive structure, unlike anything ever imagined. It was not a ship. It was something older, larger, almost alive. The surface shimmered with strange energy, and the closer they came, the more they could hear it. Not sound, but a feeling, like whispers in the back of their minds. "It's watching us," one crew member said. "No," Sarah replied quietly. "It's waiting for us." Back on Earth, Aegis monitored everything. The signal from the Phoenix 2 began to distort as it neared the structure. Static filled the communication lines. Then, just before the connection broke, Sarah's voice came through one last time. "Tell them, we found it. The source. They're not gods, just afraid of what we can become." Then silence. The transmission ended. General Hayes listened to the recording over and over, each time hoping to hear something new. But there was nothing, only static and her final words. He stood before the global broadcast system and spoke to every human alive. "We have faced what others thought impossible. We have lost much, but we have gained something greater: unity, courage, and strength. If they come again, we will be ready. If they send more, we will rise higher. Because we are humanity. We do not surrender." As his voice echoed across the world, Aegis sent one final message into the stars, repeating Sarah's words over and over in every known frequency. "They're not gods. They're afraid of what we can become." The signal traveled outward, faster than light, spreading through the galaxy, reaching every civilization that had ever looked toward Earth. In the vastness of space, countless beings listened. Some grew silent. Some began to prepare. And some whispered in fear. For the first time, the universe had learned the same lesson the Zorith had learned the hard way. Fighting humans on their homeworld was a bad idea. And now, even far from home, humanity was no longer prey. They were the storm. They were the fire that would not die. And above the earth, glowing brighter than ever before, the guardian net shimmered like a crown, the crown of a world that refused to kneel. The final message of Earth echoed forever in the stars: "We are human. And we are coming."